Good morning. My business is basically promotion and protection. When I started out, it was all about promotion. These days, it's far more about protection. I'll give you a good example of what I mean. Not so many years ago, you've got to picture the scene, a beautiful house in St. George's Hill, Weybridge, where there was a very rich American client, a major star, someone I'd represented for a few years. He just finished doing interviews for American television and British television and British media to promote his latest movie. Now, I knew that he was on his last warning from his wife. Next time you get caught playing around, that's it, finished, divorce, not having any more chances. So, he'd finished doing the interviews, I was downstairs on the phone, and I saw the gates, the electric gates of this particular estate opening up, and the car coming through. I recognised the car was his wife's, who we all thought was away for the weekend visiting relatives somewhere up in Scotland. By the time she got to the door, I was already upstairs. By the time she got into the bedroom, where he was having research meetings with a couple of researchers on the TV programme, I was stark bollard naked in bed with the two ladies while he was in the wardrobe. She wasn't too happy to see me in the master bedroom suite. Obviously, I mean, it was a horrible thing. I had to pretend I was enjoying kissing and fondling and all those kind of terrible things that you have to do in those situations. But in those days, I was a bit younger and a lot faster than I am now. I was still playing squash and, swimming a lot. So I managed to miss most of the blows, and the insults didn't worry me too much. But she chased me out of the bedroom. I managed to grab most of my clothes as I was running out, and she chased me out of the house. By the time I'd escaped, he'd got out of the wardrobe and down the back stairs and away. Now, that saved him £50 million, which is why people pay me fortunes, and I love the work I do. Promotion and protection. Really and truly, it's about what's going to help you. And what's going to help you is obviously finding the best way of getting your company successfully across to the people you want to get across to. And of course, the media is the key to that. It's about building relationships. Your company will be known by its image, and often image has got nothing to do with reality. I once sold out a theatre tour on the strength of someone eating a hamster. It didn't have a lot to do with what Freddie Starr was doing, but it made him millions of pounds. So what you have to understand is how you go about creating that image. You've got to identify the people that you want to get across to, whatever your business is, and then what's the message that is going to be most beneficial to your business, to your company, and how do you get it across? A good relationship with the media, the local media, is important. A lot of small businesses that I've been aware of all over have found that by sometimes cutting their advertising budget and investing in PR, they can achieve an awful lot, a lot more economically. I'll give you an example. Gerald Ratner had a business which he totally destroyed by remarks he'd made in total confidence to journalists. Another rule, don't ever talk to journalists in total confidence, particularly these days. But he complained what had happened, and what he'd said shouldn't have been reported, but of course the journalists weren't going to say that. But what they did was, Gerald Ratner said his own products are rubbish. It destroyed his business. 6 years later, he came to us and said, I want to launch my new business, online jewellery. And this man was finished, totally wiped out, one of the biggest disasters in the history of British business. So we taught him to play the media game, which was basically quite simple. Take all the blame yourself. Don't try and blame the media, because they won't accept that and they'll just turn against you, which is what he did. And to get the message across at the same time about the product that he was making. I used one or two stars I was working with at the time to endorse what he was doing. But in the space of 6 months, he'd spent £100,000 on PR, and he'd achieved something like £2.5 million worth of coverage, positive coverage, because the journalists were happy to give the message that he was then giving out, because we taught him to give the right message out. Within a year, he was making more money than he made previously when he had a very successful company, and he still is. It's a simple but honest answer of how you can achieve and what you can achieve economically and relatively cheaply. It's also occurring to me that with recessions coming up, there will be companies out here, all over the country, that can't afford to pay £200,000–300,000 for a year for a PR campaign. But what you might be able to do is to get together with other businesses in your area, other people that you know would benefit from good coverage, local press, national press, local television, radio. And of course the media are always looking for new angles, and obviously you, or a good PR person, will come up with the most effective way of coming out with a message which is interesting and appealing to the journalists, the media people that you want to get across to. So for the sake of conversation, there's one business and another business, maybe a third business, totally different. But the three of you get together and employ a PR company. And between you, you can come up with the kind of fees which would generate, or you would be able to get, hopefully, a very good PR company to represent you for a third of what it would normally cost you. Therefore, potentially, it becomes even more cost effective. So instead of costing you, maybe £250,000 a year, which is normally what I'm charging people, you can get someone for a third of that by coming up with someone in a not dissimilar position, as long as, of course, they're not in competition with exactly what you're doing, and all of you come from very different areas and all of you have very different businesses, so it shouldn't be too difficult. But in this day and age, that's something which I think is going on. It's one of our clients is a bank, and one of their big associates is a major pension company. Now we're looking after both of them and charging them what it would cost one of them, which is fine for them, fine for me. Everybody wins, providing, of course, we get the message across and get the coverage that they want and need. It's a time to be creative. It's a time to take on board what's going on nationally, which, of course, all of you are. There's a lot of fear out there, and I do think that the more positive you are and the more realistic you are, the more capable you are of making the best of what's going to be happening over the next year or so. The media needs to be writing about business. There's a lot of people buying newspapers to read about business. There's more and more opportunities in all areas of the media for business. My business started out with stars, but these days it's as much business, all kinds of business, property, health, beauty, banks, finance, you name it. And the reason for that is because if you use PR and they know what they're doing and they're good, it is such an effective way of getting your message across. You need to spend a fortune in advertising, in my experience, to achieve anything remotely like what can be achieved for a fraction from a successful PR campaign, because that's editorial. If you're reading an article in a newspaper about a development in Brazil, property development, or this here, or whatever it is, it's far more likely to influence you, the reader, you, the potential customer, you, the potential client,